We're already halfway through the year. However, spooky season is right around the corner. So if you're a horror reader, it's almost like the year is just beginning. Let's talk about all the upcoming horror book releases in the second half of the year. Hi, I'm Olivia. This is AV Club, where I'm usually talking horror, lit fic, weird books, that type of thing. And welcome if you're new. I'm so happy you're here. I have made a list for myself that I thought I would share with you because there might be some horror book releases that you're not yet aware of, that aren't on your radar yet, but you might be interested in as well. So, this isn't a fully exhaustive list. However, there are 50 books on this list. So, it is big. If you're doing the math here, that's a lot of books to be reading. So, will I finish all of these this year? No. However, I do have arcs of many of them, and I'll let you know which one those are because I will definitely be getting to those. In my list, there's gothic horror, there's sci fi horror, there are slashers, there's a romance, there is translated horror. So I really think there's going to be something in this list for every horror reader. But like I said, there's over 50 of them, so let's go ahead and get amongst it. In August, there are 8 horror books that I'm looking forward to, starting with A Plague Sea by Kim Bo Young, translated by Sophie Bowman. This is coming out August 11th from Tor Nightfire. This is a Korean author, a Lovecraftian nightmare of infection, transformation, and abomination. While waiting for a train to Haiwan, an isolated Korean seaside village, bodyguard Moo Young gets a disaster alert on her phone. There is a massive earthquake, a disaster. It is Lovecraftian in scale. And yeah, it's even blurred by Bong Joon-ho, the director of Parasite, that it is a breathtaking piece of a cinematic art. I'm very interested in reading a translated Lovecraftian horror. Also on August 11th is Devil Inside by Clay McLeod Chapman. I have really enjoyed everything that I've read by Clay McLeod Chapman, which is basically everything he's written. This, however, is a little bit different because it is considered a dark romance rather than a straightforward horror, I guess. It is his new horror romance about love, possession, and just a little murder. A man who's back from the dead meets a woman who's from somewhere even worse. Horror romance is not usually something that I look to pick up. However, I will read anything by Clay McLeod Chapman, so I'm looking forward to this one still. Also on August 11th, She Haunts Me Still by D. Elizabeth. These violent delights have violent ends, so there's some kind of a Shakespearean vibe to it. After surviving a shadowed childhood marked by ghost stories and loss, Mallory Webb is ready to start fresh as a theater major at her mother's alma mater, a sanitarium turned liberal arts university. She lands the lead role in Romeo and Juliet, feels like a dream, until the blood-soaked spirit she suspects caused her mother's death resurfaces after years of quiet. There are going to be multiple Shakespearean vibe horror that pop up on this list. So it may be something that I will read in tandem with each other. On August 18th, The Minimalist by Kaylee Peterson. She is the author of Sacrificial Animals, which I didn't read, but I think a lot of people enjoyed. And it says it's for fans of Tar and The Piano Teacher. The gruesome and unsettling psychological drama is a darkly lucid portrait of a classical composer's descent into madness. I have actually already started reading this one. I do have an e-arc of this one. All of the arcs in this list are e-arcs. I'm manifesting for next year that maybe publishers will want to send me physical copies because I do prefer that. However, I have started reading this one and so far really enjoying it. I don't really know what the thriller element of it is yet. However, it focuses on Ryder Wakefield, who is a famous minimalist composer. Mia Voss is his protege, and his adopted son Oliver has died. Ryder has died, and then Mia Voss is trying to finish this composition for his legacy. So yeah, I'm interested to see where the thriller element of it comes in, but yeah, enjoying it so far, and I will definitely be finishing that and reviewing it before August 18th. Also on August 18th, The Sleeping Sister Monsters by Jennifer Given. A threatened mother and relentless detective collide in this mesmerizing novel from a rising voice in literary horror. Perfect for fans of Gabino Iglesias, Carmen Maria Machado, Agustina Basterica, and Stephen Graham Jones. A detective is not something that usually makes me want to read something. However, just the comparisons and it being like a literary horror. It also says that it's inspired by true events and shot through with a Chicana indigenous reimagining of the legend of the headless woman. A feral hymn to motherhood. I think that this might be something that I don't get to before Halloween, but something that I'm definitely interested in. Also on August 18th, The Halls of the Dead by S.M. Hallow. Death is Not the End of Love, a queer gothic horror romance set in a necromancy-tinged London, sure to entrance fans of the death of Jane Lawrence and Mexican Gothic. Set in London, December 1849, Irene has dedicated her life to necromancy, a forbidden, reviled art that is passed through sentient grimoires bound in human skin. With her undead husband, St. John, a marriage of kindred spirits and platonic convenience, she's been protecting the knowledge of generations of witches that came before her. You know, I love a queer story, a gothic story. Necromancy, something that I'm very intrigued by. Grimoires, I love a grimoire. I need to be reading more books with grimoires in them. Death is not the end of love, but Irene may realize it can actually be the beginning. That sounds beautiful. Again, I see why these books are coming out in August rather than October because they seem like horror that you could enjoy kind of at any time of the year that is not necessarily so Halloween focused. August 25th, The Burn Line by Jonathan Sims. I have an arc of this, so I'll definitely be reading and reviewing this. There's something lurking in the stifling darkness and labyrinthine tunnels that run below London. Something old, something vicious, and something very, very hungry. It's the hottest summer on record, and London is dying. The temperatures underground just keep climbing and climbing. And then one fateful morning, 5 travelers on an unlucky tube carriage find themselves bound together as witnesses to a single horrific event, an event that they can't quite seem to remember. This will be my second book of the year that focuses on 5 people in the London tubes being witness to a single horrific event. However, I am very interested to see what is the element of this that has to do with, I guess, climate change, that has to do with the lack of memory of the event. High levels of intrigue. August 25th, Tracking Death by Nikki R. Lee. This is a shortwave novel. A group of friends gather regularly to watch their favorite cult horror movie recorded from a late night broadcast during their teenage years. But after their last watch, one of them ends up dead. Soon they discover this tape isn't just harmless thrills and chills, and it isn't the same movie they saw last time. A new scene is eerily similar to their friend's recent death, and the following scene might just predict their next tragedy. I love cursed found footage, cursed media. I This is just like so up my alley and exactly the type of thing that I want to be reading around Halloween time. Something that has like a weird speculative element, but yeah, I could read so much cursed media books. So let me know if you have any great ones that I need to be reading this Halloween season. Then on to September, 20 books coming out in September that I'm interested in. September 1st, The Eye of Goliath by Diego Muzio, a dark, propulsive literary gothic novel that puts a modern twist on Stevenson and Poe from a thrilling new voice in Latin American horror. It's an inventive twist on the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by an Argentinian author. It's set in 1920s Edinburgh. This is an English language debut, so he is Argentinian, but he is written this in English. It's not translated. An ingenious structure that creates doubling and uncertainty at every turn. The Eye of Goliath is a masterfully tense novel that unites classic gothic atmospheres with disturbingly modern psychological horror. If I get to this year, it will be my second Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde retelling. Retellings are also a recurring theme in this list. What is in the water? Why are we thinking about telling stories again and again? What can we gain from the past at this moment of time? Something to consider. September 1st, Kiss Slay replay by Rachel Harrison. Will this nightmare ever end? It's the picture perfect wedding weekend. The venue is dreamy, the weather's beautiful, love is in the air, and Willa Sullivan is having a bad time. Willa meets the groom's best man. They sneak off together. Their rendezvous is interrupted by a mass killer who terrorizes the reception. They're fighting to save the ones they love and survive the night, but it seems like it's not going to work out. But then they wake up the next morning and it's the wedding again. So it is like a time loop horror novel. Very appealing to me. Again, a very fun premise that is the kind of thing that I like to read around Halloween. So I might actually get to this one in September. The Wax Child by Olga Ravin, also on September 1st. In 17th century Denmark, an unmarried noblewoman is accused of witchcraft. The whole story is narrated by a wax doll who was created by her, in an unsettling horror story about brutality and power, nature, and witchcraft set in the fragile communities of pre-modern Europe. She's weaving in quotes from original sources, such as letters, magical spells, and manuals, court documents, and Scandinavian grimoires. See, it's the year of the grimoire, I'm telling you. I do think I was skeptical if I wanted to read this because Olga Ravin has recently been talking vaguely positively about AI. It's kind of murky what she actually means by it, so I was kind of like turned off, but it sounds really good, and she didn't write this book with AI, I don't think. We'll have to look further into it before committing to this book, but it sounds wonderful. September 8th, She's a Doll by Barbara Truelove. Ooh, more dolls. Lucy isn't a normal girl. Ghost victim killer. She's a doll on a mission to find the man who killed her and return the favor. Lucy is possessing the body of an antique doll. She sets out on a quest for revenge, but it's hard when you're a doll, and so she turns to Nicola, a human and fellow outsider, with her own reasons to hate the killer. But in their small, idyllic town, no one wants to hear the truth, especially not about such a promising young man. If they can't expose his crimes, Lucy will have to roll up her lacy little sleeves and teach him a lesson the old-fashioned way. I don't think I've ever read a book with such a premise that is like from an inanimate object's point of view of revenge. Very intriguing. Also on September 8th, Driven by Mason Coyle, a terrifying locked room mystery from the author of Exiles and William, this time set in a cutting edge autonomous car. I've seen a lot of people talk positively about William. Exiles for me wasn't like a high win, but it was a different level of kind of hard sci-fi, whereas this I think is more my vibe of sci-fi horror because it's considered a locked room mystery and it is set in an autonomous car, that the guy gets locked into an autonomous car and how's he going to get out? And it seems like the car has a violent mind of its own. There are some weird themes cropping up in this list of stories. September 8th, Pictures of You by Josh Mallerman. A woman becomes the subject of an artist's mysterious experiment in this intense and dreamlike supernatural thriller from Josh Mallerman, bestselling author of Incidents Around the House. And this is about Emily, who is about to ride off in the sunset with her beau, that they are about to start this beautiful life together. And then one day she wakes up and he's not there, and it seems like she's locked inside a picture frame. So why is she there? Is she actually in a painting? What is the reality of things? We'll find out together when we read Pictures of You. September 15th, Sleep Well Mommy by Mie Seo, a chilling, eerie novel about a criminal psychologist whose interview with a serial killer has an unexpected effect on her relationship with her unnerving stepdaughter. This one is also translated from Korean, and it's a captivating horror thriller from one of Korea's most renowned authors. I don't know if this is already like a best-selling book and we're kind of late to the game. I did see that it was originally published under a different name, but yeah, I like an eerie novel, and I like something that has fake psychology in it. I don't know. I know it's like probably a little bit cringe. Like, I loved Criminal Minds. I loved all of the theorizing on CSI where they just make up something and then they believe it and then it's the truth. I don't know. I don't know how much it will go along with this book, but I do love those kind of vibes. Also on September 15th, In These Gilded Ghostly Hearts by Gwendolyn Keist, a dark queer mirror to The Great Gatsby, a haunting exploration of the obsession and control at the edges of an American classic. In 1955, Daisy's found dead in an abandoned mansion, but her daughter Mel knows she's really been gone for years. There's a charming bleeding phantom that used to be Jay Gatsby. Daisy's ghost is there, frozen at 23. And so Mel is trying to free her mother. I have recently reread Great Gatsby in the last few years. I read a retelling of Gatsby last year. And again, yeah, not the only retelling of a classic novel on this list or a queer retelling of a book. I'm very interested to read this. I will be thinking more about why now so many retellings. I guess part of it is that they are entering the public domain. That's probably a big reason. But it also feels thematically correct that as the American empire is crumbling, that we are looking back at our roots. Also on September 15th, A Thousand Monstrous Forms by Saratoga Schaefer. Bluebeard gets a gothic horror and sapphic romance twist in this fairy tale retelling from the author of Serial Killer Support Group and Troudwife. I have not read either of those, but yeah, all you have to tell me now, I guess, is retelling that is gothic and sapphic or gothic and queer, whatever. Um, Say less. Say less. Still on September 15th, This Movie Doesn't End the Way We Want by Haley Piper. In November 1994, three girls visit their local movie theater to see an obscure film. Only one of them is ever seen again. 30 years later, Val has never forgotten the day she lost her little sister and best friend, but she's closed the curtain on it. That is until a stranger's murder brings it all screaming back. I want this. I want to read this so bad. Yes, I got denied for an arc of it, but I'm going to read this book. I love a again cursed media type of book and type of story, I guess. And I don't know if it's like the movie itself that is cursed, what is going on here, but it sounds very interesting to me and I've enjoyed reading from Haley Piper in the past. Very exciting. I haven't heard much buzz about this yet, but on September 22nd, Kill Creek Part 2 by Scott Thomas. Kill Creek was like a huge horror novel. I think even before horror was a big marketable genre. Like I think that this was one of the success stories. And I recently read it, I think last year, and enjoyed it. And it's been almost a decade since the murders at Kill Creek. What was only supposed to be a publicity stunt, four famous horror novelists in America's most notorious haunted house turned into a massacre. The survivors never told the full story. They hoped it would go away, that it would be forgotten, but now the story is awake. The haunting has escaped the house and it will do anything to make sure its story is told. I'm interested to see how Scott Thomas takes these characters, takes forward the writing. I don't know what made him want to tell a sequel to this story so long after the fact, but I am very intrigued. I want to see if the writing has developed more, if the characters have developed more, what the tea is. Is it going to be able to stand up to the original? I don't know. The first one was very entertaining. Also on September 22nd, The Man in the Watch Still Visits Me at Night by Joshua Chaplinsky. I have an arc of this. I can't wait to read it. I've kind of just been like waiting until it's almost time for it to be released, and so hopefully I'll be getting to this one in August. House of Leaves meets David Lynch in a surreal horror novel exploring generational trauma and the monsters it breeds, from Joshua Japlinsky, cult author of Letters to the Purple Satin Killer, which I loved. I loved that book. The lives of three unlikely women unfold to reveal a shared history of neglect and abuse. At the center looms the Vogel house, a facade of rotten wood and sagging eaves that plays host to a parasitic dream, the malevolent entity known as the Man in the Watch. Nightmarish dead zone of overlapping realities. This I'm glad that I'm going to be able to get to like before Halloween, because I think that this type of weird horror, surreal horror is something that I want like kind of leading up to Halloween, rather than being like a very October spooky month book. I'm really looking forward to this. Those themes are just coming back on September 22nd. Incarnate by Alma Katsu, a terrifying reimagining of the picture of Dorian Gray for the internet age. Beauty doesn't fade, it feeds. And this is a Dorian Gray built on cutting edge deepfake technology. A modern reimagining of a classic tale, Incarnate is an illuminating, haunting tale of algorithmic worship and beauty that can kill. Up my alley for themes for sure. I We'll never stop talking about AI on this channel. Never. Also on September 22nd, Maisiewood by Tana Reeve Dew. In 1926, Gracetown, Florida, a young Maiselle sets out from her Florida home to find the wishing pool and make her wish for a better life, a best friend forever who will love her better than anyone else. When Scout the Wonder Dog appears, it seems her wishes come true and she's suddenly a star of the silver screen, her entire family listed from poverty. But wishes are tricky things and fame isn't always fortune. Hidden in the forest around Maisiewood is a legacy of pain and sorrow of a family turned against itself by legacies of racism. A terrifying creature stalks the woods. The family thrust into a desperate fight for survival in the icy wilderness around Maisiewood. I expect this to be beautifully literary written. Still on September 22nd, The Henchperson's Guide to Unionizing by Marshall J. Moore. This one a little bit different for the list because it's funny. It is hilarious, heartwarming, and just scary enough. But it's about Igor, the laboratory assistant to the brilliant but demanding doctor who has to spend his nights robbing graves, stitching together body parts, and ensuring that his master doesn't electrocute himself. And it also has Cornelia, the dissatisfied bride of the vampiric count, and it also has the feline familiar Grimalkin of an enigmatic witch. So it's about Cornelia, Grim, and Igor, and this is about them having to come together, unionize, when they realize that they've been unwitting participants in a horrible plan to destroy the world as they know it. I I don't think I've seen anyone talk about this yet, but I think it sounds really fun. Call Off the Dark by Haley Shepard, September 22nd, a haunting, atmospheric debut thriller with a love story at its heart, following a feisty young woman caught between her husband and a mysterious stranger who disturbs their off-grid life in rural Washington. I was intrigued to find out that this is currently in development as a TV series, so you will probably be seeing it again one way or another. Blends a spine-tingling thriller, an immersive psychological drama, and a heart-piercing love story that reminds us of the magic and human connection and our truest partners in life can keep us tethered to the world. Really, I think that this was most intriguing to me. It has like a trad wife in the Pacific Northwest. I think it's most interesting because I love to read a book before it becomes a series. Yes, I'm that kind of person, and I just want to have an opinion before anyone else gets a chance to. Also on September 22nd, Our Cut of Salt by Dina Helm. From a bold new Palestinian voice comes Our Cut of Salt, an unflinching, sinister, and moving take on the haunted house novel perfect for fans of The Only Good Indians and The Haunting of Hill House. It has 3 generations of women as well as a one-of-a-kind haunted house, disturbing and mesmerizing. And I believe this is actually set in Palestine as well. On September 29th, Nightjars by Michael Wehunt. Memento meets Dracula in this heart-thudding, unpredictable, and beautifully crafted novel of a man exposed for crimes he doesn't remember committing and the monsters that dwell at the heart of us all. I really have not looked too much into what this one is about because I am so excited about it. Michael Wehunt wrote my favorite horror book of last year, The October Film Haunt, which I just found my perfect elements of intriguing plot, just really novel things going on, as well as being very literary, allowing itself to be very slow, just kind of like an anti-book talk book. And so I'm really excited to see what Nightjars is all about as well. And I do have an arc of this, so I'll definitely be reading it soon. Also on September 29th, The House of Gardenias by Isabel Cañas. Despite near constant political violence in the city and abusive father at home, Minerva Trevino's cowardice has kept her alive for 16 years. But even she has a limit. Unable to take another beating or miss another meal, Minerva musters enough courage to flee to a neighborhood full of rich people loyal to the deposed fascist viceroy and take a job as a lady's maid to a wealthy widow. I'm really excited to read Isabel Cañas's YA debut. It sounds just as dark as her adult book, so I'm intrigued by that, and I do have an arc of this, so I will be reading it, and I have loved her writing in the past. I expect it to be beautiful and literary and atmospheric and dark. Sounds like maybe even darker than the other books. Our last one for September 29th, Night of Madness by Ryan Douglas. This is another YA, but it just sounds so fun, and I have read The Taking of Jake Livingston by Ryan Douglas before, which was also YA and I also liked, so I'm willing to give another YA a chance. Teen influencers compete in a horror movie themed overnight competition only to realize the real test is staying alive in this chilling, blood soaked horror novel. And it also mentions in here the production company behind Clown in a Cornfield being involved. So I don't know if that means that this is getting a TV or movie adaptation as well. But yeah, influencers horror movie themed overnight competition. It sounds just not cheesy enough, but just kind of like kooky enough that it is something that I would like to read, even being YA. On to October. This is the real heavy hitter month, as you might expect, people wanting to sell as many horror books as possible right before Halloween. So let's get into the 22 books in October. I'll just say the date and then I'll tell you when a new one comes up because we got a lot of books to go through. October 6th, Dive Bar at the End of the Road by Kelly Armstrong. Final Destination meets The Cabin at the End of the World and the supernatural horror in which a series of car accidents traps a group of strangers at a dive bar. I will read anything that says it's kind of like Final Destination-y because it sounds like it might be kooky enough. Dive Bar at the End of the Road. I just, yeah, this sounds like exactly my cup of tea. And I have an arc of that, so I'll be reading it soon. Night of a Thousand Hells by Intan Paramitha, a genre-defying feminist gothic novel blending Indonesian folklore, Islamic mysticism, horror, and political reckoning. And this is kind of an Australian book. I believe she's Indonesian but lives in Australia now, and this book is set across Indonesia, the United States, and Australia. The novel explores class divides, sisterhood, migration, shame, abandonment, and the politics of care, drawing on Asian folktales and occult traditions. I love that. I love something with a bit of scale to it, something that I think will be different. Bruja's Nest by Brenda Latour. The Love Witch meets Monstrilio in Bruja's Nest, where a young woman's abuse, history, and ambition erupt into body horror, class war, and monstrous motherhood. This Love Witch meets Monstrilio. That sounds incredible. And yeah, I have an arc of this one as well. Can't wait to read it. On to October 13th, Storm Raven by Kelsey Yu. Mexican Gothic meets Get Out with this Rebecca-inspired Gothic horror rooted in Chinese American history as a gifted artist uncovers a haunted mansion's chilling secrets that threaten to make her dream a living nightmare. I will say I haven't had great success with stuff that says it's inspired by Rebecca, but I will always give it a chance, and this one sounds really good. Fitcher's Bird by A.G. Slatter. This one's actually October 6th. I just got it out of order. This is an Australian book. Once upon a time, three young sisters survived a catastrophic house fire. Years later, one of them disappears and then another, and it is left to the eldest sister to find out whether something else survived. A dark, twisty, page-turning modern gothic horror. A.G. Slatter is definitely a atmospheric gothic author that I enjoy reading, and yeah, I'm curious to find out if it is set in Australia, but it doesn't say in the synopsis. October 6th, Your Beloved Remains by Quinn Connor. As fascination turns to obsession, two women drag each other into an academic horror of forgery, murder, and rage, destined to be devoured by readers of Plain Bad Heroines and If We Were Villains. I actually haven't read either of those, but I love something that is set at a college. I love something that has a little bit of scheming to it, a little bit of scamming, and yeah, academic horror is up my alley for sure. One that I definitely won't be reading in October, but I'm really looking forward to, October 6th, is Seasons Reapings by Sylvain Johnson. This is one of those advent calendar format books where there's like a chapter for each day. This has 24 stickered sections, a wickedly dark and festive reimagining of the Nutcracker, serial killer, the Mouse King, terrorizes the people of Montreal during the Christmas season. I have never had one of these books. I feel like they're always romances, which just doesn't appeal to me, and I feel like none of them are really reviewed very well anyway, but I want to read it, and so I will be reading this one hopefully in December. I think it sounds like so much fun. I love having an advent calendar. I was doing my short story advent calendar last year and I stopped halfway through, so I will have like 12 days left of that this year, so I need something else to last the entire month. Okay, now for real, on to October 13th. Rotten Heart by Kat Dunn. From the best-selling author of Hungerstone, which I liked, not loved, an intoxicating and chilling gothic horror novel that reimagines reimagines Hamlet with a seductive sapphic twist. These people just know what to write for me. Like, yes, I want to read a classic. Yes, I want it to have a sapphic twist. And yes, I love Hamlet. Uh, where the only thing more dangerous than a family secret is a mother's revenge. I knew there was other Shakespearean stuff in here. I need to read those books together. This Bee Just Won't Die by Tanya Pell, a humorous, heart pounding feminist slasher, takes on misogynist social pressures with one former Scream Queen as she's pursued by a serial killer impersonating the antagonist of her films. Former Scream Queen Barbara Jacobs desperately wants to break out of the box Hollywood has neatly packaged her in. Cast as the star of the Mirror horror franchise films 20 years ago, she's now 40 and still seeking the approval of everyone around her. But then fans start dying around her in ways that mimic the kills in the films. She's thrust back into the role of the final girl. What's going to happen? I think this sounds really fun. And it does not sound like the remaking by Clay McLeod Chapman, but kind of like it revisits a final girl film star, and there's real world stuff going on. And I loved that book. So I think I'll like this one as well. To Bewitch a Hunter by Luciano Lamberti. For fans of Pet Cemetery and Tenders the Flesh, an award winning novel from Argentina that begins when an adopted woman is approached by someone claiming to know what happened to her real parents, an encounter that triggers an hallucinatory odyssey into the dark years of dictatorship and a family history of disappearances and blood sacrifice. Sounds great. It Looks Like You in the Dark by Matilda Zeller, a propulsive indigenous horror debut, expertly blending Alaskan Native folklore and supernatural thrills. She was featured in Never Whistle at Night, which I haven't read yet, and also has a sequel coming out. There's going to be a new Never Whistle at Night anthology, but I feel like I should read the first one first, so it's not on this list. Solace House by Will McLean. The Secret History meets The Haunting of Hill House. That's our second Haunting of Hill House comp title in this as well, which I love. Summer 1993. Alex Lane finds himself at the end of the university summer term, broke and without any concrete plans. So when he's offered the chance to join a group of students tasked clearing out Solace House, a large Victorian residence left to the university by a reclusive hoarder called Flane, he jumps at it. The other students are a mixed bunch, falls into a close relationship. As the students continue to sort through the detritus, one of Alex's companions becomes increasingly obsessed with the hidden secrets of Solace House and some mysteries involving there. It's interesting that it doesn't have like a House of Leaves or another like obsessive house kind of book as a comp title. I guess Haunting of Hill House is like an obsessive house book, but yeah, I'm intrigued to see where this is, and I have an arc of it, so I will be reading it. Another book I definitely won't be reading in October because it is another holiday book, 'Twas the Night by Kevin Johnson. Clay McLeod Chapman said it was a Yuletide midsummer drenched in eggnog and blood. A young reporter follows a string of disappearances into the middle of a terrifying Christmas cult inspired by her favorite holiday classics. It's Christmas in the village of Yule, Maine, but it's always Christmas in Yule. Here, Santa Claus isn't a storybook figure, he's an icon, a god, and they worship him there. I think this one sounds very, very fun for Christmas time. Monstera by Delilah S. Dawson. When Lucy McClintock moves into a dreamy Victorian in downtown Savannah after years of suffering under the rule of her overbearing grandfather, she feels like she's won the lottery, except for the creepy landlord. And then this one has like a botanic horror vibe to it. Phantom Limb by Brian Evanson. This is his first book since 2016's Last Days. After destroying the headquarters of an underground amputation cult, a burned and battered Klein finds himself in a holding cell. When he enlists the help of an ex-cop to commute his prison sentence, Klein inadvertently tangles with a schism of the very cult he sought to destroy. Can Klein investigate the sect's ritualistic murder spree without getting lured into their ranks? This one, I think, will also be literary. Brian Evanson is a very beloved author. Speaking of literary, Off the Reservation by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a follow-up to The Only Good Indians, which I read whenever it came out, and I don't feel like I'm ready to read a sequel to it. I think I'm gonna need a reread before I can read this. It's 5 years after the events of that book. One of the survivors finds himself in the hospital after a terrible accident that should have killed him, and his life is out of balance. weird horror stuff goes on. I don't want to look too far into it because I want to reread the first book and I've kind of forgotten everything that happened other than knowing that I really enjoyed it. So it'll be like a fresh read. On to October 20th, Happy Hour by Gemma Moore. The eccentric owner of a 90s underground London cocktail bar has a unique and disturbing way of keeping an eye on everything and everyone, then disappearing those who don't behave. Famous politicians, glamorous actresses, and international stars are all dying to get in and to get out. I think this is, yeah, going to be a fun little novella with just like a good hook and develop that and be done. Perfect. I love a horror novella. What the Forest Devours by Elaine Villar Madruga, a award-winning horror novel from Latin America. A community of women and children and one man fight for survival in a harsh and terrifying Cuban rainforest where the gods require appeasement through beautiful sacrifice. A Caribbean-flavored novel of gothic horror from one of Latin America's most exciting young writers, a macabre examination of what women must sacrifice to survive in a society with the power to destroy them at any turn. Some dark ones, some heavy ones in here. On to October 27th, Haley Piper, I guess she just like cannot stop writing because there's another one from her in this list. She isn't herself tonight. When Rabbit was 10 years old, she was abducted by aliens, and it happened again when she was 20. Now 30, she's ready for their next visit. What she isn't prepared for is her boyfriend callously ending their long-term relationship and ejecting her from their shared home. So this is about her paranoia about an alien abduction happening. I think there's some body horror in here, or some sci-fi horror. Who knows? Maybe some domestic horror. Don't know everything that's going on, but I'm sure it is going to be a maybe not fun at all times, but a good time. A book that I cannot believe I have an arc of that I am so excited to read, Public Access Afterworld by Jane Schunbrunn. This is the last one in whatever that trilogy is called. That is We're All Going to the World's Fair, and then I Saw the TV Glow. This is the last one. The last one is actually a book and not a film, and I haven't read too much about what this is about because I want to rewatch the movies and then read the book right on the tail end of it. But it is going to be technological in scale. It is about the analog to digital transition in 2009, about two lonely TV obsessed suburban teens. But after that analog to digital transition and the static that follows, Aaron witnesses surreal broadcasts from a pirate TV network called Public Access Afterworld, and their lives are changed forever. And then it follows up 17 years later with a content moderator having to watch a stream of horrific videos. A young streamer begins to crop up in her feed calling out to Public Access Afterworld. But what is it? We'll find out together. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be able to watch those two movies again because I've only seen them the one time and I love them. They meant so much to me. So I'm really excited to see how the book goes. Scorpion Deep by C.G. Drews. This is a disturbing and intoxicating siren call about a lonely boy who accidentally awakens an obsessive eldritch sea god. I have just read two books by C.G. Drews, who is an Australian author. They wrote Don't Let the Forest In and Hazelthorn, which were both wonderful YA gothic queer horrors that I loved. And so I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm excited to see another eldritch oceanic book in the mix. Savage Lake by Nick Medina. A mother and son travel to a dilapidated cabin in the woods that haunts more than just her memories in this new unnerving horror from the author of The Whistler and Sisters of the Lost Nation. I read The Whistler, liked it, didn't love it, really interested to see where this one goes. The Whistler was partially set in Louisiana, I believe, in like central Louisiana. So I don't remember if Nick Medina is from Louisiana area or where this one's set, but I'm interested in reading more from him. And then on to November, just two books for November. Really, September and October were the heavy hitters. November 3rd, There Used to Be People Here by Kennedy Cole. In 1970s Mississippi, a black detective and his temporary partner are assigned to a case that shifts from murder to paranormal conspiracy with life-altering repercussions. With shades of the X-Files and S.A. Cosby, it definitely explores race, queerness, and existing as other in a society that demonizes everything different. I really hope it is giving X-Files vibes. Basilisk by Matt Wixie, a terrifying and unputdownable horror thriller novel of fiendish puzzles, compelling mysteries, and paranoia about an enigmatic hacker, a deadly online game, and a cyber weapon that makes people go insane. For fans of Paul Tremblay and House of Leaves and the people who just have to know the answer. And it's about an ethical hacker and bizarre problems. I think that this one sounds so fun. It's like the exact kind of sci-fi thriller that I want to read. I love puzzles. I love hacking. Oh, I just think it sounds like a lot of fun. And then December, I've got nothing. I've got nothing for December so far. Is there something that I'm missing out on that I haven't come across yet? It seems like most of the horror books are coming out in September and October, so it's really not that surprising that there wouldn't be a ton of December releases, especially since even the holiday horrors are coming out in October. And I did find some books, but this truly was me paring down a list of so many hundreds of books that are coming out, and these are the 50 whatever that I am most excited about. So there are definitely many more books, and I'm sure many that I missed that I would love, but these would just sound like the ones that are most up my alley that I'm most likely to prioritize getting to this year. But let me know, what is on your list of these? What sounds like something that you might be interested in, or something that you think I missed that I should check out? What are you reading for Halloween this year? Are you a spooky season horror reader only? What do you like to read at Halloween versus other times of the year? Chat about anything down in the comments. I want to talk to you. Maybe consider liking, subscribing if you enjoyed this video. But until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye!